Hello.
Okay. So we're doing a weekly wrap from a Wolfgang Puck's at LAX airport.
Yeah.
We've just finished the Alien Con weekend, and here we are. Not the video quality. This is going to be pretty good because we're not doing Google Live.
That's right.
Upload on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm just recording it on my phone, and then we're going to just upload this when we're done. So.
Should we say, first of all, because we've been at AlienCon, we're sorry. There probably are a million comments we have not approved.
Undoubtedly.
Sorry.
As we were going through check-in at the airport, I said to you, oh my dear God, there's probably like 50, 60 comments that are awaiting approval. So as soon as we're done with this, we can get on the phone and just look at them, because we like to look at them and approve them. So sorry about all of that.
You're gonna music, a little Blondie
happening
for the weekly wrap.
So we're waiting for our order here.
You don't need to talk as loud.
And I'm talking a little loud. Okay, I've got this. Tracy likes to tell me this. So I'm trying to think what is the important things that we want to go over here. Normally when I do the weekly wrap, I have a series of notes. I'm very organized with these.
I know you are.
You realize this is not organized.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the conference, and then we can go back to some finer points.
Sure. So do you want to start somewhere?
Yeah.
You became a YouTube star with your 90-second little YouTube.
I got talked into that. I didn't want to do that.
But anyway, what did you want to start with?
No, I mean, just for people who don't get to go to conferences, just a little tiny review. So AlienCon LA was a very different experience. I think they were expecting way more people. It wasn't quite as big as they
I know,
thought
it was
going to be.
Still very busy, but not what you think of an Alien Con. This is History Channel's Ancient Aliens TV show. They've now hosted their 4th or 5th Alien Con.
The
like
venue
Comic-Con,
was massive.
Very, very large. Los Angeles Convention Center, it's huge. And I mean, the attendance was decent, but not amazing.
Right.
Actually.
But, I mean, it was good. We got to meet a lot of people because of that. It was like a trickle. Not a trickle. I mean, it was healthy.
Steady flow.
It was good.
We enjoyed it.
But typically we don't get to see a lot of speakers. But one thing that I really like is the panels.
Oh, so we can talk about the panels. So I did 2 panels and then 2 lectures. The lectures are ones that I've done in the past. Although I did talk a bit about the Eric Davis Wilson leak documents in one of my lectures. I just kind of shoved that in there at the end. That was interesting. I'll just talk about the panels. I did 2 yesterday, both like disclosure-oriented types of panels. In the past I would think, disclosure panel, here we go again. When is this going to happen? But I have to say, I feel now that things have moved very, very rapidly, very fast in a short period of time. I'm not saying disclosure is about to happen any minute, but when you talk about it now, there's a certain urgency or a certain immediacy that exists that I don't think really I felt in years past. So I'm trying to think. One interesting moment, I did one panel with Seth Shostak of SETI.
That's what I was hoping you were going to bring up.
Yeah. So he was an interesting man. I'd never met him before. If you don't know who he is, he's easy to search. He's main voice of SETI. He's very much a UFO skeptic.
He works for SETI, but he's a UFO skeptic.
Right. Well, most of them are, at least officially.
Oh, interesting. I had no idea that would be the case. So
no, they hold UFOs at arm's length because they're trying for respectability. And God forbid they talk about UFOs. So Shostak, in years past, had at least one, probably more than one debate with Stanton Friedman. And I know at least the one that I learned about, Seth Shostak did not do very well in that debate. But I would have expected him to know a little bit more than he did. So we have one little panel, and he's talking about how, people just think the government can hide everything. The governments can't hide anything, he says. They learn about everything. Scandals come out all the time. And I was just rolling my eyes during a lot of that. I thought, this is not interesting, not true. But he made this point. I thought, how do you get this far along in life, really, And I realized like he's debating the issues on UFOs, and he's got a very, very entrenched opinion. I realized like that's the only way you can have this opinion. It's like you've got this ideology, it's fixed. But anyway, he made his point, and it's the only time like any of us on the panel did an actual rebuttal to anyone else. And I just said, look, I have to offer a rebuttal to this. And I said, I can't remember everything I said, you know, governments do hide secrets. They've hidden them frequently. We have black budget realities here going on. We have special access programs. We have unacknowledged special access programs. We have media control. He was talking about how the media would love to pick up this story, and I just like, look at the history of something like Operation Mockingbird, which is part of our history. We know all about this. Media control.
Right, and he was also saying, you know, it's one thing to say the U.S. is hiding this secret, but you're telling me that it's a coordinated effort, and you know, China has decided to hide the secret, and Russia has decided.
One thing he made a big thing out of this. He said, look, it's not just the U.S., it's international. Why aren't the other nations disclosing? And so that gave me a great opportunity. I said, well, most other nations don't have a whole lot of independence. Most of them, to one extent or another, are I would say, vassals. Higher-end vassals, lower-end vassals of the U.S. system. They're all integrated. You know, we've known since Snowden that presidents of entire nations, prime ministers, are monitored by the NSA. They can't say boo without the NSA knowing. Dilma Rousseff of Brazil, Angela Merkel of Germany, that came out. What's this song? You like this one?
Men Without Hats? God, it's been so long.
All right, this is one of your songs from the 90s.
No, this is the 80s.
Safety Dance.
80s. You know Safety Dance.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of this.
I have the wrong name of the band. It's just, I'm tired.
Oh, there we go. Everyone knows that little piece. We can dance.
Yeah.
Something. We can dance. Don't tell me I can't.
They took it away because you were singing it.
Oh, there we go. This is our Sam is coming here.
Okay.
Hi. Let's pause this here. All right, so we're gonna pick this back up. We have our little meal on a plate here. We're gonna eat that. So anyway, where were we?
It's a really different weekly wrap. You were talking about Seth.
Yeah, I just thought, you know, look, this argument that every nation has the ability to disclose is just completely fictitious. And so I said that, and there was a bit of applause after that. And I just thought, this man, he's just rolling out the same old tired arguments again and again. I felt kind of bad for him.
I wasn't that familiar with him, but so he's been this known skeptic.
He's
that's
very prominent. Very prominent,
okay.
Yeah. So, but that was Seth Shostak, that's fine. I enjoyed actually doing all of the elements, all of the events that we had here. I will say, a lot of the side chatter is all about the Eric Davis Wilson leak. I had a long conversation with George Knapp about this. He's quite knowledgeable, of course, about all the players involved. And it's funny, I didn't have George's cell phone number, or at least it wasn't up to date, so we've got that now, and I definitely want to stay in touch with him about a lot of these issues. And one thing he said to me was, he was thinking, you know, I may have to do a story on this. And that would be very, very significant, because he very well might be the first kind of quasi-mainstream leak of this information.
Right.
And that doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere from there, but it's a start. So I think it'd be quite interesting indeed. Also, I'll just say, behind the scenes, I am in touch with a number of very, very interesting people. And not really, it's not appropriate for me to mention who these folks are, but there are people who are sending information to me. Certainly being I think trying to be very careful about it. Made a number of contacts here this weekend that I think will be genuinely helpful in moving ahead on this, to be honest. And boy, oh boy, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, known him for a number of years, who told me, told you, then told me, a heck of a story about two different very high-level individuals, one with an association with the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
First-hand account.
One with a very high-level association with NASA. Both of whom I have detailed notes on this as well, so I'm not going to forget it. But both of them made it very clear to this friend of mine, brought up the subject of UFOs with each of them in various times, and both of them said, initially, don't ever talk about this with me ever again. One of them actually went so far as to say, hey, my wife will lose her pension, and I could go to a place worse than Leavenworth. And this guy was not kidding around. This is a very highly accomplished man who said this to my friend. So things like that are always very chilling when you hear this. And my friend is someone that I'll just say I absolutely trust 1,000%. So.
Are you going to mention the other statement?
Oh yeah, why not? The other statement is someone who, all I'm going to say at this point is this other individual has had a high-level connection with the Joint Chiefs of Staff going back to the 1980s, a long time ago. Became very close friends with my friend. That's a long story. They had a number of heart-to-hearts over the years. They just really connected. They just hit it off. And you know, this guy originally said, look, don't ever talk about this. We cannot talk about this. Promise me you'll never ask me about this again. But years go by, and after the recent upsurge of news of UFOs, UAP, my friend approached this guy. This is quite recent. This gentleman, this friend of his, is not well physically. He's getting up there. He's not doing well. So I think my friend said something to the effect of, look, I know you can't say anything about this, but at least I hope that the people who are forcing you to all of this secrecy and forcing the secrecy in general, I'm just hoping that they're doing this for the greater good of humanity.
I heard it as, I hope that the people who are in charge of humanity. No, you heard it.
No.
You heard it different second. Okay.
So it was that they're doing this for the greater good of humanity. To which his friend said, now, this is a man who, we'll say, had a very important role in the Joint Chiefs of Staff at a certain period of history. This man said, gave his name and said, I don't think they're human. And he was dead serious. Wasn't as far as my friend said, it was an absolutely dead serious statement. So there you go. I don't think they're human. How do you answer that?
But he wasn't referring to extraterrestrials. He was referring to
the people managing
humanity.
Exactly. Managing this secret that affects humanity. I don't think they're human. So you can take that in any number of ways, but I mean, let's just take it to where it obviously seems. They are managing our society. Right. That would be the implication. And they've got either their people, their avatars, whatever they've got their hooks in. Yeah. That would be the implication, I would think.
There are definitely people who already believe this, for sure.
So there's that. There's also, this one I didn't write down. I'm afraid of losing this one. Someone else had a story I'm remembering. Oh yes, here we go. I'm gonna have to write this one down because I didn't get this person's name. Man comes up to our table. A younger guy, in his 30s anyway, younger than me. And very intelligent, very well spoken. He's there with a woman. He was talking about, yes. He has a cousin, I think I may have mentioned it. But someone who's close to him, a woman, who was not present. And she is a scientist, very brilliant. And she works for a company that makes the drones that apparently were shot down over Iraq or by Iranians, not Iraqis. by Iran. So their company is the company that manufactures the drone that has just been the subject of major international news. U.S. drone shot down by Iran. And this has become a big thing. So that's the company. So anyway, he's talking with her, and somehow the subject gets around to Antarctica. Did I not tell you this?
No.
Oh. So she... Now this is all kind of fuzzy to me. I feel terrible.
I think I might remember when this happened though. Yeah, okay.
He's talking about unusual artifacts under the ice in Antarctica. She said to him that her company has 24/7 surveillance of their drones over Antarctica. Now, Antarctica is a big continent, so I don't think it would be over the entire continent, but at least over some areas of extreme interest. And the implication, he said to me, the very clear implication had to do with, I don't know, something ancient or some kind of technology under the ice. And that's one thing he absolutely said. Something technological under the ice. So you get these stories. They're just floating around in the world. They're just out there. And when you go to these conferences, sometimes these stories will come to you.
Yeah.
So that's something where you can do an actual lead, because you can find out what's the name of the company. I'm sure someone listening to this is already looking it up right now. So allegedly, according to this individual, that company is also doing some critical 24/7 surveillance of an important part of Antarctica.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't realize I hadn't told you that. I thought I did.
No, I think I remember when they came up.
Right.
It wasn't that busy, but there were definitely lots of times where we were
Right.
talking to different people.
I would say, in my view, those are the
wow.
two most interesting
Yeah.
conversations that I had at this event. There's always other interesting people. They've got something to say.
Yeah, sometimes we don't have time, sometimes we do. I talked to some really interesting experiencers, lifers.
Just before I went on for my last lecture, I mentioned this during the talk, but I was walking back, I was coming back from the restroom. I was walking in to do my lecture, and a woman stopped me right at the entrance. And I thought, I'm about to speak.
Yeah.
But she insisted to talk to me, and I was like, okay. And she's telling me of her experience, and I don't really know what to make of her experience, to be honest. But she had a conscious memory of a gray alien with a long, like, extended tube or something that was connected to her. Like, she apparently woke up, or she was in her bedroom and she woke up and this being was there, long, kind of thin tube going into her head in some way or another. And she said, this is interesting, she took a swipe at it, or something happened, and it disintegrated right before her eyes. So, I don't really know what to make of that. I mean, I don't know her. Well, I was rather rushed, and I was on my way up to the lectern, but she said that. That it just sort of like disintegrated. And I asked her, I said, you were awake. This is not a dream. She said, I was totally awake. So she said, what do you think that was? And I'm like, well, I'm just trying to think out loud. Some ultra advanced nanotech, like a nano fog, of nanobots that could compile and decompile maybe in some way, like some kind of avatar in that manner.
Or you're talking about the rod.
I'm talking about the being that disintegrated right in front of her.
Okay.
And or is it, if you want to play with dimensions?
Right.
I was just reading about, dimensions that are supposed to be like a millimeter or two, like next to each other. They're called branes, BRANE. Is it that they have an ability to work their way through a dimension and then return immediately? I don't know how that would work. So I just kind of tossed that out as a possibility for her as I was on my way to the to do my lecture. It's a fascinating thing, these conferences. I mean, they can be expensive to attendees.
It's
not
true.
deny it.
It's always nice when you get to talk to a lot of people. So, for example, last night, I mean, all of those examples, but last night we were just relaxing after, and Kathleen Martin joined us.
Yeah.
And we had some really interesting discussions, and
Kathleen's a great lady, boy.
oh yeah, I
She is
think
something.
you guys are going to do an interview soon. These
Yes.
two got talking about debunkers and Philip Glass
So,
and Menzel.
Donald Menzel. So people who know about Kathleen Martin, they'll know that many of them will know that she's the niece of Betty Hill and Barney Hill. So that's interesting. They'll know that she's written books, some very good books, with Stanton Friedman
And Denise Stoner.
On subjects generally dealing with abductions, abduction phenomenon. You'll know that she's really kind of created the whole MUFON experiencer research team. And she really turned it into something valuable.
Right.
So all of those are cool, but what a lot of people don't know is that she does not put up with debunkers. And she'll get feisty. Like, she's a sweet person. You think, wow, she's not going to fight. Wrong. She'll go after you. So one of the things that she has done is spend a lot of time at the American Philosophical Society in Philadelphia researching the files of Philip J. Klass and Donald Menzel, who have papers there. And she has, I would say she might be a bigger expert on Philip Klass than anyone around for the amount of work that she's done. And she just despises Klass. One thing she pointed out is how Klass jumped into the UFO field back in 1966 knowing absolutely nothing.
That's so interesting.
Nothing.
And suspicious.
Nothing. He had read 2 books by the end of that first year, both by John Fuller, which actually they're very good books. But that was his sum total of his knowledge, and presented himself to the Condon Committee in the 1960s as an expert, and they welcomed him with open arms. He became buddies with Robert Lowe, who was number 2 on the Condon Committee. I didn't know this, how this had kind of the genesis of Philip J. Klass. So anyway, I'm going to interview Kathleen about Philip Klass as soon as she's available, but that may not be till August. But we're going to do it. That'll be a good interview. That'll be a really good interview.
I think so too. And just another random note, we talked about some other things, because Kathleen has now done 3 surveys for experiencers. She did one before the Big Free questionnaire that was 4,000 participants, and she's done one since. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you were talking with her about that.
I have to look into that and find it. The other thing that was just kind of interesting to me is, everybody knows I'm really into the hooded beings. I'm always asking people she's a perfect person to ask, because she deals with a lot of experiencers. And she is the first person to say, she's come across a lot of stories of...
Yeah, that was interesting.
Of hooded beings, for those of you who are kind of interested too, or have had, your own experiences. I've asked every researcher pretty much, at least the hypnotherapists. And as I've said before, David Jacobs said absolutely no. He's never seen them reported before, only that occasionally mantis beings were reported with
hoods. Yeah.
But you could see them, and this is not really what I'm after. I'm after the type that the face is blocked out. And as soon as I said that to her, everybody who knows about that knows that is a thing. That this certain type of hooded being where it's absolutely impossible to see the center line of
So she has a number of those reports.
Yeah, she does. We weren't able to get into it, but I am going to.
Might be able to share some ideas with her.
Yeah, I'm going to dig into that. So
while you were talking with her, I was talking with Alejandro Rojas.
Right.
That was a good conversation.
Yeah.
This was all last night.
Will you share some of that?
Yeah, gladly. So what I discovered is Alejandro and I pretty much see eye to eye on TTSA to the leaks. I've come to the point where I'm more sympathetic than not to what TTSA is trying to do. And I know, look, there's people out there who are very ultra suspicious of TTSA. And I think it's good to recognize they have an agenda, and it's also good to recognize they have a bias. Absolutely. I would never say don't recognize that. But I guess I've come to feel that they're engaging in something very difficult. What they're trying to do is not easy. They're trying to negotiate a kind of soft disclosure in a very treacherous terrain. It's not simply dealing with the UFO crowd. We're throwing rotten eggs and rotten tomatoes at them. That's one thing. That's low level. They're trying to negotiate a disclosure through a military and intelligence community that's not fully on board with this. Like, I think one mistake people make, and Alejandro I think would completely agree with this, is that it's all coming from one order, one unified rollout of information, and I don't think that's how it works. I believe, I mean, maybe we can be wrong, but I believe that you've got a group of people, really the old aviary, Hal Puthoff's at the center of them, Kit Green and Davis and the rest. You know, some old members are gone and new members are brought in, but they're at the center, and my take on them is that they're working their way through the labyrinth, and they've gotten close to the center, and they've generated enough leverage and allies to be able to get some declassified videos and information out there, and it's generating a kind of forward momentum. Now, there may be ulterior motives for it. One possibility is, Robert Bigelow, who's really the power behind the scenes of all of that, probably would love to get maybe a big, lucrative defense contract out of this. Wouldn't shock me in the least. I don't know this to be the case, but why would that be outrageous to think? But the fact is, they're working their way through a very treacherous system here, and they're not doing a bad job. They have a very conservative message compared with the whole UFO subject. What they're doing, I'd say, is very conservative in how they're portraying this.
Absolutely.
But even so, even in the show Unidentified, they were talking in, I think, episode 3 about how the Navy was confiscating UFO data right off the USS Princeton in a way that was kind of shocking to the guys on the ship.
Right. I know I said this before, but it is amazing to me that they are on TV saying that.
It would have been really amazing 3-4 years ago. Like that was not being done in this kind of a manner by guys with that level of credibility. So it's all TTSA.
Yeah.
I mean, none of this would have happened without them. So I've just been saying, look, they're not perfect, and they probably have an agenda, but can we at least take the win, like what's being presented here? This is definitely moving the UFO subject forward in a big way in the public's eye. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about your mother, who was watching it. She liked it.
Yeah, she called me up and she thought it was great. She loved it way more than Ancient Aliens because she could understand it. It was more straightforward. Yeah. She could hear the testimony of people. It's more believable to her. So
you gotta remember,
I think that's a good gauge of what's going on.
It's like not everyone's like us.
Right.
Or like the members of our site who are knowledgeable, into it, they know things. Most people don't know a whole lot about this. So they get exposed to this, and I think they're getting exposed to it in a way that is like the least unsettling way that still gives them a good dose of truth that I can think of. The TTSA group they've got this pretense of, we don't know what these things are. So that's what they're doing right now. Mm-hmm. Maybe they won't go any further, but I have a feeling that they will go further. And partly because they might be willing to it, and partly because the rest of us are going to be pushing this matter forward. Mm-hmm. Things like the Wilson leak are going to be pushing this forward. This is the problem. It's funny. I wrote After Disclosure almost a decade ago. In fact, 10 years ago, I think it was 9 years ago, Bryce and I were writing it. And I was thinking lately that I kind of got the main trigger mechanism of disclosure wrong. but maybe not. Like my way of thinking of disclosure back then was there was no motivation for anyone to disclose this. It's way too profound, too radical. And so that the only way it would happen would be if there's some explosive accident, some leak, some sighting, something unforeseen. And that isn't how it's rolling out right now. It's rolling out in a different way. It's much more controlled. So I was thinking, well, did I really missed the boat that badly? But what I think is going to happen is this isn't done. And this is only the beginning stages of this.
Right.
So we have to keep waiting and see how far will they go before there's like an avalanche. And that's when things will get crazy, as Bryce and I predicted in our book.
Right. Makes you wonder if those who gave it a green light know something that's coming. Like, why now? A lot of people are asking why now, and we don't really know.
Well,
it's or is it just merely planned? But again, if there's no motivation for them to do it, is there something coming? I mean, I don't know what that would be, or is it what you said? It's just going to be impossible to keep a secret because people are going up. Tourists are starting to go up into space.
Right.
You know,
it could be like someone realized this is not going to be contained any longer, so let's manage the rollout.
Yeah, if private companies are starting to take tourists into space, like how do you control all of that? So, you know, it could be something like that, not something nefarious or...
I think it's very possible that there's a number of factors that are going into this decision. So that could be part of it. It could be the fact that as we're sharing more information, we're kind of building a critical mass. You got some good 80s music happening here, don't they?
Come on, Eileen.
Yeah, it's a good song.
Dexter's Midnight Runners.
Is that what they were? I did not know the name of that band.
Yes.
Now, once I actually was kind of cool and hip on top of popular music, but that was so long ago. I have just fallen by the boards,
I don't
by the
know.
wayside.
This is quite old.
Yeah, and like
Very old.
I wasn't even following it by this time anymore. I was kind of done.
Okay, how weird is this? We're eating in front of you.
Oh yeah.
There's
Should we
80s
stop?
music. We said we're just going to do it for a second because we had something to say, and then here we've been eating in front of you this whole time.
Take this to the finish line. We're going all the way in.
Okay. So.
I don't know how much more we really have here. So that's the whole disclosure thing.
Okay, well, just one more thing.
Yeah.
So talking about the show Unidentified, I don't know how many people have seen the one that just came out.
The fourth one, which we have not seen.
Didn't see.
No.
But people were buzzing about it. Again, we
was
don't
it?
know. We couldn't comment on this.
Yeah, okay.
I won't say who because they don't want to be involved. But a researcher saying that they were portraying a helicopter as being shot down that was involved in
Italy.
Italy. I don't know if it was a USO, UFO. I guess it doesn't really matter. It's unidentified.
Why can't we mention this person? They wrote a book that deals with this incident.
Okay, mention.
So it's Paola Harris.
She just said she didn't want to be involved.
No.
But
Paola's Italian. Paola Leopizzi Harris, and she wrote a book called How Do You Speak to a Ball of Light? I think is the title of it. I have 2 copies. We can look at this.
Okay.
In this book.
This case that they are referring to in the 4th episode of Unidentified is in her book.
Yeah, and her fundamental point is that it wasn't an attack by this object.
Correct.
There was something inadvertent which had happened, as she argues, that caused an accident to happen, and there was...
Yes, that it was something like this. It was a ball of light near the water, I believe, and it was causing electrical interference with the helicopter. And the electrical interference took the helicopter down. So there are people that are upset that they are portraying the helicopter as shot down, even using those words, because of what that makes you think of. So,
right.
But
like an attack.
Yeah, but we
Something
haven't
to be
seen
afraid
it.
of.
She hasn't seen it, but But what she did say was that Tom DeLonge had posted something where he used the word shot down. So she was, really
Didn't she
unhappy.
say that he withdrew that post?
I don't know. Because I
all
was saying,
confusing.
let's maybe they were sensationalizing it, but maybe it wasn't actually portrayed like that in the show. I'm sure some of you are sitting there who've watched it and you know. And how we look forward to watching it. And other people were saying, I think in the UK, you were unable to watch it. I don't know if you can get Vimeo. I'm sure it's available on Vimeo. We've been watching it there.
Well, we've been watching it on the History Channel.
No, we did, but then we found the last one on Vimeo. Remember?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you can watch it on Vimeo.
We'll do that next time.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do that while we're waiting for our flight. We're here pretty early.
Which is why we're doing this, of course. But we were starving.
Okay, so one last thing we'll just talk about is our drive back here.
Oh, yeah. We just dropped off Linda, who, by the way,
Linda Moulton Howe.
I should check on and make sure everything's okay with her.
All right, so I'll tell the story. So Linda didn't really want to take a cab or Uber alone to the airport from the convention center, so that's fine. So we said, we'll take you. Come with us. And she was very happy. So we get into the Uber. Great driver. Love this guy. And he, how do I put this? So Linda gets in. So Tracey and Linda are in the back seat. I'm next to the driver. And Linda just launches into her. What the heck was she talking about?
Black suns in Antarctica and the potentials of it being portals. And I mean, we went all over the place with the occult and Hitler, and it was mileage.
So this driver, he was a smart guy, and he said to us during the drive, he said, actually, I was actually hypnotized, and he used that word several times.
Yeah.
He said it to Linda, and then after she left, he said it to us. He said she had me in such a state of hypnosis with her cadence, her language. Mm-hmm. He said, if she had told me, turn right here, I would have done it. I would have turned right. It's like he was, and then he had to shake himself to get out. And I said, well, you don't know how lucky you are. That's the great Linda Moulton Howe. She is a legend, and after you get to learn who she is, you can realize how cool that is that you were driving this person and were hypnotized by her voice. So he was interested in all of us. Like, he's checking out our website, I'm sure. He's checking out our YouTube channel. He's checked out Linda. So it's a fun thing when you go into the big society there and people find out who we are. I'm at the point, years ago, I was like a meek little mouse on airplanes, and when I was traveling, I wouldn't tell anyone who I was. And now I do it all the time. I'm just like totally out with it.
This was more than being out with it, though, because I definitely got the feeling that, he's never heard anyone talk about this at all.
That may be.
And we kind of checked in with him, and he was really interested.
Well, he said, look, you have to promise me that I'll be your driver whenever you're in LA. They're like, okay,
yep,
we'll do that. We have his card. We know how to get there.
Yep.
So.
All right, so I'm just checking on the